This is Cult Confessions with Christy and Josie. Welcome to our podcast.
Trigger warning. May contain themes of religious trauma and sexual abuse. Disclaimer. All information in this podcast is our opinion based on our experiences. We do not purport any of this content to be inherently factual and believe that each individual has the right to draw their own conclusion.
Hi, I'm Christy.
And I'm Josie. And today we are going to be talking about some of the super fun rules that we had to follow while going to IFB schools. And I think that we both went to IFB schools for about the same amount of time. When did you start going to Willamette?
I started going to an IFB school when I was 12 or 13.
Okay.
I think it was 6th grade.
6th grade. Okay.
Yeah.
I was homeschooled, and you went to a Christian school before that, so you've always been kind of like in an actual school.
Yeah.
Being actually taught. So I was homeschooled for like kindergarten to like 3rd grade, and then 4th grade I went to school at Faith Baptist, and then 5th grade I went back homeschooled, and then 6th grade I went back to Faith, and then stayed there until I graduated. So I think we probably spent about the same amount of time in an IFB school, but they were also very different.
Yeah.
And so I had a couple of different principals throughout the course that I was at Faith, but everything was still run by the same pastor, by Pastor Boyle. And I mean, the pastor is, the head honcho. He sets all the rules for the most part.
Okay.
And then you had 2 different pastors that were presiding over school while you were there. Talk about some of the differences between, like, you had Pastor McElroy and then Pastor Donley.
So one of the differences that I know of is we weren't allowed to have electronics on the bus when it was Pastor Donley. For some reason, it was like a lot more strict. We were allowed to have like iPods and games and things like that. Yeah, but with Pastor Donley, we weren't allowed to have playing cards or electronics. And that was a weird change.
So what did you do? Like, what would you do on the bus to like pass the time?
For us, we would do we would sing and we would play games.
We sang a lot.
I was only there for 1 year with Pastor Donley, so I don't know if they really did those rules quite yet. I just know that when I was with Pastor McElroy, we would sing, we would play games, mostly just play games, to be honest. And so that was, I feel like it was a lot more fun. And then we would have the guys on one side and the girls on the other side. And then when Pastor Donley came, he switched it so that there were the girls in the front and the guys in the back.
Yeah, so, no, that was how it was at Faith, was guys got the back of the bus and girls got the front. And I remember we were always so annoyed, like, why can't the girls have the back of the bus? Like even in the IFB, like, we had that little bit of like feminist pride, like we should be able to sit where we want. And I have a picture, I'll have to find it, of like when we finally got the back of the bus, like with all of us in the back with the luggage and everything. Yeah. Very proud IFB feminist moment for us when we finally got to sit where we wanted in the bus. Side note, I did not like sitting in the back of the bus. It made me really sick, but I was fine with it because it's where I wanted to sit. So I got to sit where I wanted to sit.
Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't say I experienced much changes just because I only had Pastor Donley for a year.
Right.
I know that there was one boy that got in trouble for wearing shorts, like khakis, to field day, which was weird to me because
that's so dumb.
Khakis are like nice.
Well, okay, so like when we say field day, like that's like a casual day, right? Like no school uniform required.
Yeah, like we literally go to like Silver Creek Falls or something.
Okay, so were the boys at your school allowed to wear basketball shorts? Because at mine, they were, if we were doing like any kind of physical activity or manual labor. And I mean, the boys in the IFB did a lot of manual labor.
I honestly don't know. I just know one got in trouble for wearing khakis to like a hiking event, And then
Wow.
another guy got in trouble for wearing shorts at like the beach because he wasn't swimming.
How
Like
does
they
that
all
make
went down.
sense?
Yeah, they all went down to go like to the beach, obviously, to go swimming and stuff. And he wasn't swimming, so he got in trouble for wearing shorts. I
How
don't
does
know.
that
It's
that
so
that doesn't
weird.
make any sense, dude?
I don't
And
get it.
it's oh, that's so annoying. Like they're such little sticklers. Anything that
Hmm.
that could potentially be wrong, it's so nitpicky.
Yeah. Yeah,
And they
because I
wonder
remember.
why they have rebellious children not wanting to follow their rules because you make it impossible to follow the rules.
Hmm. I know that you guys had the no electronics because I know Nathan
Yeah.
got in trouble once for not having them, or I mean, for having his laptop.
Yeah.
I think he
So
snuck it on or
we
something.
we did and then we didn't. So my 6th grade year, we had Pastor Donley as the principal, and that was a hard no electronics rule. Um my 7th grade year, which was your senior year, and that's when Pastor Donley went to Willamette. My 7th grade year, we had Dan Coburnett as the principal, and he was a lot more lax on a lot of those things by IFB standards.
Yeah.
So I remember that I was able to bring my MP3 player that I had, but I had to play a sample of it for his wife, Amy, so she could approve it before we got on the bus. Um,
Hmm.
Now, did I listen on the bus to exactly what I played her? No, I did not.
Yeah.
I just had to like time it so that I would be listening to the bad songs, quote unquote, while they were sleeping. Because they would randomly go through and do like earbud checks. So they would
Oh,
say, like, okay,
really?
oh, yeah, yeah. They would,
Interesting.
um, yeah. So I had to time it. Like, I would make sure that they were sleeping before I turn on like a country song or something like that.
Oh
Um,
God, a country
yeah.
song. How dare
No,
you?
it was so bad. I feel like
That's
such
the
a little rebel, like listening to my
I feel
country
like
music on the bus.
okay, I feel like that was way different for me with Pastor McElroy because
Mm-hmm.
they would play like bluegrass and all the things during church.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they would
Did
like
you
bring in
did you
all
have
the
drums in your
instruments
church?
and stuff. No, no,
Oh,
we were
okay.
never allowed to have
I was gonna
drums,
be
but
like, oh, drum
we
church.
no, no, it was like they would bring in all the different instruments. I don't know what they're called or anything like that, but like the bluegrass
Well,
essentially
your
type of
school, I
music.
mean, was a little bit bigger than mine, I think. I mean, at least the physical size, because I've been to Willamette, for fine arts and stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe population size, but at least physically, it was a bigger building. And you guys actually had like a choir class or like musical instruments classes that you could take. Is that right?
Yeah, we did.
That yeah, we did not.
Yeah, when Pastor McRae was there, we had a really, really awesome band.
That sounds so cool. Yeah, we
Hmm.
no, nothing was like that was ever allowed. And I don't know if it was just simply
And they
like
would
a
play like Star Wars and like every like really cool stuff. Yeah.
So we made up a song about Star Wars. Okay, so it was a Star Wars song to the tune of the Indiana Jones theme song.
Oh,
And that's what
interesting.
we sang that on the bus all the time. It was really, I still remember most of it. I'm not going to sing it because nobody wants to
Yeah.
hear that. But I still remember most of that. That was fun.
Yeah, so we had a bluegrass vibe, a country vibe because our pastor was from Waco, Texas. And
Oh,
so
okay.
because
Okay.
he would play that stuff, his sons would listen to like I don't know, like Nickel Creek, I think is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Something, I don't know, some bluegrass groups or whatever. And they would have it on their iPod. So like we were a little bit more lax with music,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, and then we would still have like the rules of like it couldn't have like a certain beat, drum beat.
Yeah. Anything that made you want to move your body was unacceptable because dancing was absolutely out of the question. Like, I remember, okay, so my junior year, we did our like combined junior senior trip and we went to New York and we went to, a more like Southern Baptist church,
Hmm.
like that kind of vibe. and everybody was dancing and everybody was like swaying and singing. I had the time of my life. Everybody looked so uncomfortable. And I was just living my best little life, like really happy to be there, like swaying and dancing. And I wasn't even like doing a lot, but I was like, I don't have to stand like stiff as a board singing this hymn. I can like sway a little bit. I can have a little bit of fun with it. It was a very different experience. It was awesome.
Like between IFB and like a more contemporary type of church, it's like we don't like not even like hand raising of like, like praise
you can't clap after specials. Like if somebody sings in church, you can't clap because then you're giving them praise and not God.
Yeah. And I think that that's why we like got so used to kind of putting on a front and like having to be absolutely perfect, because you have to be like quiet and meek and like not dance or move or like look the wrong way or say the wrong thing. So it's just a lot
all about appearances. It's all about appearances. And it's
a lot of pressure to have on so much pressure. Like especially the women, because it's like I remember just trying to like pass like algebra class and like history, and I wish I wouldn't have had like the extra anxieties on top of that, like of having to be so perfect all the time and making sure I didn't get in trouble for things that honestly just don't matter.
Right.
And like normal.
You were a very perfect IFB kid, like teenager. Like that was the vibe that you kind of gave off, and you tried really hard to make that happen. I was the opposite. Everybody saw me as a rebel. Everybody saw me as a trouble child. I was always in trouble for something, or I was always being scolded about something. Because I think I gave up the idea of perfection probably in my like freshman year of high school. I didn't last very long. And I mean, I would still follow the rules that I had to follow to participate in the things that I wanted to participate in. Because, like, I liked school. I was a very smart kid. I got almost straight A's. I mean, I was valedictorian. We only had 3 people in our graduating class, but that's fine. I was still valedictorian. And I loved volleyball. I was so good at volleyball. And it was a really good anger expression kind of thing for me. Like, hitting the ball and seeing it hit someone's face felt really good. And so I did what I had to keep up appearances so I could participate in those things that I really enjoyed. Because there were parts of school that I liked and that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that I could still do those. I didn't have it taken away from me, because I would have if I just did whatever I wanted to.
Yeah, and I think that like with having to be perfect and a good kid, I was like involved in absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Like I was in volleyball, I was in choir, I was in nursery, bus ministry, in a singing group. We were literally in a singing group with Pastor McRoy. Do you remember our group?
I remember listening to it. And again, like, I mean, I don't feel like
we made CDs and everything.
Like what?
We made CDs.
Oh, did you really? Oh, I don't remember that. That's crazy.
We were called KBLM because it was Christy, Bethany, Lexa, and Melissa. And yeah, and so we were like an a cappella group, and in high school, and we would sing everywhere. Like wherever our pastor wanted us to sing, we would go and sing.
That's so weird.
We ended up recording music for it too. But yeah, so I remember getting just burnt out because of having to do so many things.
Yeah.
That I just ended up like having to quit some things because I started getting migraines just due to stress.
Yeah. So it's interesting because even like hearing you talk about all the things you're involved in, I feel like I was involved in a lot of those, just like way less. Like I did nursery, but I did it so I didn't have to go listen to preaching. I did it so I'd get a break. And I love kids. I love playing with kids. They're fun. And I had toddlers, so like the 2s and 3s. And so I got to run around with them and eat some goldfish. And it was great. And I also did bus ministry. for a little while because my previous volleyball coach, who's actually the sister of the person who molested me, I still really liked her, and her husband, and they ran a bus. We had like 3 or 4 buses, so they ran one of the routes, and they asked me if I would come and help.
That was her. The husband that was her student.
I don't know if he was ever technically her student. I wasn't as clued into that, but he was definitely young enough to have been her student. Yes.
What's their age? Yeah, what's their age gap?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so she was, I want to say like 7 years older than him. I don't know that for a fact. I'm not 100% sure, but I think about 6 or 7 years older.
That was a very questionable relationship.
That was, yes. Yeah, there are a few of those. Yeah, that one.
And everyone's related at your church.
Yeah, everyone's related. Everyone's related to everybody.
A Tucker
married a Heiberg, and then everybody got related. Yeah.
No, the pool is so small within like an IFB, like.
Well, that's why Bible college is so encouraged. Like, you go to a Baptist Bible college, so that way, we're not having any incest issues. But yeah, so, I mean, you go to a Baptist Bible college, and then you get married, and then you have babies, and that's what you do when you're a woman in the IFB.
Yeah.
It's about it.
Yeah, so we weren't able to find our own, like, rule books or anything. But we were able to like look one up, and it's very, very similar. So we might kind of read a little bit off of that just because we don't have our own. But I know one of the things that we had to do at my school was wear nylons. Like at all times, women had to wear nylons.
All times, nylons.
And I was literally talking to my sister, like, I don't understand why we wear nylons.
I don't
when it
either.
Literally, it makes our legs look nice and shiny and glossy, and like it draws attention to your legs. And on top of that, like you can get the ones that I think my sister said she wore pattern ones at college.
We weren't allowed to wear patterned ones, at least in high school. Yeah. College, might have been different, but we were not allowed to wear patterned ones. We also weren't allowed to wear knee highs. Like, it had to be full nylons. And I definitely wore knee highs a few times and got in trouble for it because if I walked, you could see the back of them. So after I got in trouble for wearing knee highs, I wore thigh highs a lot because I just don't like wearing nylons. They're uncomfortable. So I would wear thigh highs. And, I mean, obviously our skirts were so long that nobody could really see, but I remember one time I like tripped while I was walking and my skirt went up and somebody saw the thigh highs, and it was too sexy. It was like basically lingerie, and it was completely like, it was a huge thing.
Britney Spears?
I don't even know if they know who Britney Spears is.
I'm sure they do. I mean, who doesn't?
No, honestly, I don't know. I think that it was just it was, I think one of the boys probably complained about it and said it was like a temptation of some sort. But yeah, I got a talking to by who did I get a talking to? I think it was my English teacher.
Okay.
And she said, no bueno.
Okay. So we ended up basically making it like, so we basically hacked the system by wearing boots and then leaving our skirts long enough so that like you couldn't see our legs at all. So it was like skirt and then boot. So you couldn't see our legs, so we could wear like whatever we wanted. And so I just didn't wear nylons after that. I know for a fact someone actually got a doctor's note so that they wouldn't have to wear nylons.
Why? Like, well, what would be a medical reason not to wear nylons?
Well, I actually would have an issue with nylons and they would make me like really itchy. It might have been that.
Oh,
like that might have been the reason why she got that. But yeah, like we went to the lengths of like getting doctor's notes.
Nylons are the worst.
Yeah, so that we wouldn't have to wear nylons, and
we weren't allowed to wear boots. Like for a long time, we weren't allowed to wear like nice. I'm not talking about like snow boots or whatever. Like nice dress boots, like ankle boots or knee boots, either way. Like we weren't allowed to wear those for a really long time. So we were not able to hack the system for a while. And I think it was my junior year. I was having pretty consistent weekly counseling sessions with Pastor Boyle. And for part of those, he would ask me, like, how's school going? And, you know, that kind of stuff. So I would talk to him about how I hated all the rules. And 2 rules, like, specifically that I thought were really unfair. Because, I mean, I didn't like any of the rules, but at least I understood from an IFB perspective why they mattered. Like... why they mattered to them. I'm not going to say that they actually mattered because I don't believe that they did, but why they mattered to them. So I was like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm just going to deal with it until I graduate. Whatever. But these 2 rules that I really, really didn't understand were the no boots and the no nail polish. I'm just like, there's no reason for these. So I remember that we talked about that for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 counseling sessions at least. And it was just me like consistently like pushing back, and he'd be like, oh, well, this reason. I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, well, this reason, that doesn't make any sense. And eventually, he said that it was because he wanted to show me that if I brought something up in a respectful manner that he would be open to it. But honestly, I think he just got tired of me like ragging on him about it. But he changed the rules. And I did appreciate that for sure, that he was willing to bend a little bit. I appreciated that. So we were able to wear boots. So we still weren't allowed to wear leggings, but pretty much everybody did.
After the boot situation.
And then we were allowed to wear nail polish as long as it wasn't black or red.
So we were only allowed to wear, I think, natural nail colors, so like pinks and nudes. I don't know if we could wear anything else other than that. I honestly don't remember the exact rules.
Well, let's look at some of these from this handbook that we found. Okay, let's start with this. What did you have to pledge allegiance to? Because we had to pledge allegiance to the American flag, the Christian flag, and the Bible.
I totally forgot about that until I saw that handbook, and I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. The Christian flag. I think we had to do the Bible, the Christian flag, and then America, obviously.
Yeah, that's what we had to do as well. Did you know that there's a Baptist flag?
I had no idea.
I had no idea there's a Baptist flag. I can find a picture of this. But apparently at this school, they must pledge allegiance to the Baptist flag every morning.
Someone dunking a person in the water.
Somebody swallowing a goldfish. I don't know.
Maybe, seriously.
You never know.
Oh, man.
So that was exciting. So this is a part that I actually found really interesting. And it's under the section discipline. So this is talking about, I'm just going to read this. It says, griping is not tolerated. If your child does come home complaining about a policy or discipline, please follow this procedure. Number 1, give the staff the benefit of the doubt. Number 2, realize the child's reporting is emotionally biased and may not include all the information. Number 3, realize that the school has reasons for all rules and that they are enforced without partiality. And number 4, support the administration and call the school for all the facts. How problematic can we be? You're basically telling parents not to believe their children, not to support their children, and not to question authority whatsoever. And that is so, so dangerous.
Yeah, it goes back to like the whole like obedience being like the right thing.
Right.
And like that basically we're just supposed to listen and respect our elders no matter what, and that's not safe.
It's very unsafe. And honestly, like that type of language makes me concerned for the children that go here, makes me concerned that they might, I mean, again, like I'm not trying to make stereotypes believable, but that kind of language is I feel like a predator would see that and be like, ooh, opening, I can use that to my advantage.
Yeah.
And that, I would not want to send my children there. I would not want to send my children somewhere where they had no choice but to completely agree with the authority placed over them that I don't have a say in, and then also be told by that same authority that I could not believe my children.
Yeah.
What is that?
I mean, if you don't believe your own children, then like who do they have to like protect them?
And I don't know that we ever had anything like that written in our handbook. I don't know if we did. I don't remember seeing it. But I do remember that was the culture. I remember coming home to my parents and they would go to and I would have complaints and I would have, annoyances or something that happened, or I would be mad at the rules. And they would go to parent-teacher conferences and be told that I was rebellious and they needed to support the school in correcting me and essentially fixing my rebellious spirit.
That's so sad. Yeah, I just don't understand. Like, we have to be able to support our kids and we have to be able to protect them. And part of that is by listening to them.
You're creating a generation of children that are not going to speak up if something bad is happening. Like, you're continuing that. You're not creating, you're continuing that, because for generations that has been what the IFB has produced, is children that cannot speak up when something bad is happening to them because they won't be believed.
Yeah. And they're afraid, like, because of the power dynamic. Right. A lot of times it is, like a pastor or a teacher that is abusing a child. And because of the power dynamic, it makes it really, really hard for them to speak up. They're so fearful. I mean, we're driven by fear as kids. Like, the way that we're disciplined is through fear, that we have to listen and we have to do the right thing. But because we're fearful of the adults, not because we respect them. But it's
why would you want that? Like, honestly, like as a reasonable person, I'm not even talking about as an IFB leader, because I know why they want that, because they want to be in control. But I'm talking about as a reasonable person, or like from a parent's perspective. Why would you want your children to be like that? Why would you want these compliant little things that just do everything that you say and don't think for themselves? Like, why do you want to create that? That to me, that defeats the whole point of having children.
I don't think they think that they'll like lose their personality. Do you know what I mean? That they'll like lose who they are. But
they're wrong. They're very wrong.
Yeah, it breaks you, and it makes you not be able to communicate things. Like, even when I was touched inappropriately, like, I never told my parents. I think I just did like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I never told them because it wasn't a place, like, it wasn't a environment that like made it so I should tell my parents, because I was fearful of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like it was my fault and I was fearful of getting in trouble. So I ended up just telling my sister. But like, it's just, I feel bad because like, I think my parents, would have obviously taken it well. I just felt like for some reason I couldn't tell them stuff.
Yeah.
I was just afraid of getting in trouble.
Yeah, and honestly, that's, I think, pretty typical for a lot of kids in the IFB, like, especially women, especially girls. Like, we're taught from a very young age that our bodies are bad and that we're stumbling blocks for men. And if a man hurts you, if a man does something to you, it's your fault because you must have tempted him in some way and he can't control himself. So that entire line of logic creates that response in children where if something bad happened to me, it must have been my fault. And
the sad part is that it happens to women. Like, obviously it makes it harder for us to speak out because we feel like it's all our fault, and a lot of times they do blame it on us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the homophobia makes it almost impossible for boys to come forward. Like, if a boy is molesting another boy, it's basically impossible to come forward.
So let's talk about the homophobia. There is a section in this handbook called Sexual Orientation and Behavior. It says, we believe that any form of homosexuality, lesbianism, bisexuality, transgenderism, bestiality, incest, fornication, adultery, and pornography are sinful perversions of God's gift of sex. I mean, obviously there's parts in there to agree with, like bestiality and incest. Like, that's a no-no.
I mean, to each their own, but still. Like...
Okay, but I believe in to each their own as long as you're not hurting another person, right?
Oh, 100%.
As long as you have enthusiastic consent from your partner who is of age and can consent, then to each their own. Whatever you would like to do in your own home, whatever you would like to do with your own life, your own body, it is absolutely your choice. So they don't believe that.
No.
They don't believe in any of that. They don't believe in bodily autonomy for the most part. And that's just disgusting.
One of the things too is like, I mean, obviously we've had people come forward to us about being, you know, a boy that was molested by another boy.
Yeah.
And how difficult it is to come forward because of the homophobia. Yeah. And that like there's no way anyone would believe them. And then, you know, the way that basically you'd be bullied for the rest of your life. Like being like that you're gay or whatever, just because you were molested by some other person.
And it's
like somehow it makes it your fault. It always
the whole culture around homosexuality or anything revolving around the LGBTQ community is so hateful. I remember I wasn't allowed to call trans people. I was like, I couldn't refer to them by their preferred pronouns or even they, them. They were it. That is how I was raised to treat transgender people. And I didn't figure out that that was not acceptable until like my early 20s. Yeah. And I look back on that, I'm just like, oh my God, how disgusting. I can't believe I ever thought like that. But I mean, I didn't know any better. But I mean, I know better now, so I do better now. But that's how I was raised.
We were taught to basically think that gay people are like obsessed with sex and that they're just like these horribly disgusting, sinful humans.
I remember meeting my first gay person, like my first gay friend.
And also like unnatural.
Yes. Do you know what I mean? So, I remember, oh my God, I literally told somebody that. Like, this was, I think I was 18 at the time, and it was like, you know, I was working in a call center or something, and my friend had told me she was bi, and I remember saying to her, that I think for me, it's unnatural, but I'm happy for you to do whatever you want. That was my response to her. And I look back on that now, I'm just like, oh my God, Josephine, what did you say?
And there's so much. So bad. There's so much that Nathan and I have regretted saying to people.
Yeah.
That we've had to like go back and just say sorry. Like,
I'm sorry. I apologize to her. We were friends for several years.
Shirt, make a shirt that says, I'm sorry for what I said when I was a fundy or something.
Yes, that would be such a good shirt.
Because there's so much that we were just ingrained in this in this belief system.
Yeah.
That we felt like we had to save you. We felt like we had to do everything we could to save you. Whether that's telling you you're going to hell for being gay, you're going to hell for
because, you know,
whatever.
If the threat of hell is very effective in saving people and making
it's fear. I mean, it's fear-based. And so controlling people by having them believe in hell, first of all, like if you believe in hell, then you're a lot easier to control as a group of people. Because you're like, oh, the fear of hell is a great way.
It's a great tool for manipulation and coercion.
And so, but there was also, I think there was a part about like the movie theater that I couldn't remember why exactly we weren't allowed to go, but it says it in that handbook.
Oh, I don't know if I read that part.
No, there's like a specific spot under movies that
Let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
It says exactly why we weren't allowed to do it. And I was like, oh my God, that's the exact thing. It's so good.
Okay, let me go to this page. Okay. Movie theaters have a culture of their own. It has become a place where teenagers go to meet other teens and just hang out.
Oh, God.
And this is under a section of why you can't go to a movie theater. What is wrong with meeting other teens and just hanging out? There is nothing wrong with that.
You can't hang out with your own
oh my God.
Apparently.
I can't believe I missed this part. We do not want to create a desire in our young people for Hollywood and what it produces.
Keep going. It's so
okay.
It's crazy.
I'm going to talk about this for a minute because with recent things like that have come out about the Nickelodeon stuff and the child abuse that happened there, I would understand that perspective. I mean, I still don't agree with this rule, but I would understand that perspective if the IFB didn't produce a ridiculous amount of pedophiles as well. Yeah. Okay. Very few of the movies are wholesome and healthy. By whose definition? Okay. We do not want to support an industry that is corrupting the minds of our nation by attending movies. Your money supports the production of PG, PG-13, R, and even X-rated movies.
Yeah. We're supporting sin, apparently, by going to the movie theaters.
I have so many thoughts on this, I don't even know where to start. My mind is like racing right now. I can't. Okay. The last one under here. If someone were to see one of the young people leaving a movie theater, they would not know if they attended a G or R-rated movie.
Okay.
That is the big one. That was the big one for us.
Can we talk about how you can't go to see an R-rated movie
when you're not 18?
Yeah, unless you're 18. Yeah. I know back in the day, before we had like the seat saving type of thing, you could sneak into other movie theaters. I mean, you still can, but it was easier back then to not go to the movie that you paid for, but go to a different one because they didn't like check the seats or whatever, right?
Right.
But yeah, like you have to have an adult to go with you. And then if you have an adult going with you, like your parents, then that means that your parents are allowing you to do that.
And then your parents get in trouble.
It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, oh, you might be watching an R-rated movie, but you literally can't until you're 18.
First of all, let's talk about the premise that there's a problem with watching an R-rated movie. I understand as parents, we want to protect our children and make sure that what they are watching is appropriate for their age level, 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're 18 and you want to watch an R-rated movie, who cares? It is your eyes. It is your experience. You are legally allowed to do that. Who cares?
Well, within the IFB, it's not your eyes. It's like God's eyes.
Well, yeah, but the IFB is wrong.
Like your body is a temple, and so like everything that is yours is God's.
Yeah, your body is a temple, unless somebody defiles it, and then you can't do anything about it.
And they won't either. So
no, yeah. So and this all also goes back to testimony and appearances. It is just absolutely ridiculous the value that the Independent Fundamental Baptist movement places on appearances. It is so stupid. And so not only is it stupid to place that much value on appearances, it kind of does the opposite of what they want it to. They say that by having all of these rules and appearing a certain way, that you are more godly, that you have a better testimony, that you're closer to God, that you're a better Christian. Mm-hmm. It does the opposite because you're so focused on all of these rules and you're so focused on what people think of you that you aren't focused on what God thinks of you. And if you're a Christian, that matters. And if you're not, that doesn't, and that's fine. That to each their own religious beliefs. I'm not preaching one way or the other. But I'm saying for a Christian, you care what God thinks of you. When I, as an adult outside of the IFB church, I have put so much more thought and care into what God thinks about how I'm living my life and the things that I'm doing and the things that I'm saying than I ever did in that church because I was so focused and I was so wrapped up in appearances, and it was obsessive. I was obsessed about appearances.
Yeah.
And I didn't even like see value in it.
I honestly didn't realize how obsessed we were until I left the church
Yeah.
and realized like how much pressure you have to like dress up and like almost put on a face for
Yeah.
church.
Oh yeah,
Like
your Sunday best.
you have to be like this perfect little person with like this skirt and just and
Yeah.
fancy stuff too, not just like the fancier you could get, the better for some
Yeah.
reason. And it's
Yeah.
like God doesn't care about your riches. I mean,
Well, okay, so let's talk about the concept of
The pastor
modesty.
does.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about the concept of modesty. When the Bible talks about modesty, they talk about women not painting their faces or wearing like an exorbitant amount of jewelry. Modesty in the Bible is about not flaunting your wealth. Modesty in the Bible has nothing to do with your body. Again,
Yeah.
my pastor said that. God didn't. My pastor said that. And
well, so I remember like post church, right? I remember kind of talking to people that were still going to church and how they were like basically talking about someone wearing something they weren't supposed to wear. And I was just like maybe like a year after being out of church. I was just like, wait, why does that matter? Like, why does
yeah.
it matter what they're wearing? I don't
Yeah.
understand why you're up like
I've had
uproar
so
for like
many of those
something so little.
moments. I've had so many of those moments since leaving where I thought one way, like very adamantly. I think the biggest example I can think of is spanking your children. Like, I
Mm,
grew up and spanking your children was totally normal, and you were very looked down on if you didn't spank your children.
mm-hmm,
And somebody asked me, like, maybe a year ago, and this is something that, like, when Theo and I first started dating, I was 18, and I was like, are you going to spank your children? Because if you're not, I can't be with you, basically. Like, if we ever have children, I can't parent with you if you're not going to spank your children. Like,
mm-hmm,
that was that was something I believed in very strongly. And I had
mm-hmm.
somebody ask me like a year ago what I thought about spanking children, and I was so far the opposite way. I was like, why would I beat my child? Like,
Yeah.
why do I need to do that? What is that going to teach them? What is
Mm-hmm.
that like? Who is that helping? And it was just
Well,
kind of that moment of like, huh, I really am different.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't understand spanking because it just makes your kids fearful of you.
Right.
It ends up making it basically having them fear you when they're supposed to come to you like when they need you or when they're
Yeah.
upset or when they're fearful of something. They come to you. You know, when
Because
there's a
if you,
thunderstorm,
yeah.
your child runs to you
Mm-hmm.
because they're afraid. But if they're afraid of you, it basically makes this complex situation happen in their brain
I don't
where
know
they're
if I
like,
ever
do
did
I go
that.
to my mom? Do I go to my mom or do I not? Because sometimes
Yeah.
she's scary.
No, I don't even
And
know. I'm sure I did when I was like a child, like a little kid, but I don't ever remember doing that. I don't ever remember like, and I did not like loud noises when I was growing up. Like I
mhm,
wasn't a fan, and I didn't like thunderstorms. I never remember going to my mom because I was scared of a thunderstorm.
yeah.
Hmm.
And on top of that, it's like we're teaching our kids that when we don't get what we want out of someone, you hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want someone to do something, you hurt them.
Yep.
Like as adults, do we hit each other to
Hmm.
get what we want?
Let's talk about hitting in the handbook,
Yeah.
um, because there's a section on like demerits and discipline, and the discipline for hitting somebody is 10 demerits minimum to suspension. The discipline for having a relationship, dating, boy girl dating,
Hmm.
is 10 demerits to expulsion, not suspension. Did I say suspension before? I meant to say suspension.
I don't remember.
I don't remember what I said.
You know what's funny?
It's more of a punishment to have a consensual relationship than it is to actually physically harm another person.
In the school book, though, it says boy girl.
Yeah, boy girl. It specifies boy girl relationships. So
if it's like a queer relationship, it's fine.
Well, if it's a queer relationship, it's not allowed.
It would be the other rule instead, right?
No, I don't think
think it's funny because I'm like,
a queer relationship would be accepted.
Yeah. I'll just kiss a girl instead.
Unacceptable. No, it's ridiculous.
No, I just believe that it's like the whole appearance thing is just insane, and that's not like what God would even care about. He doesn't care
and about God has proved that time and time again in the Bible, like that he does not care about appearances, but the people that he associated with.
The whole thing with like the Pharisees, like he got mad at the Pharisees
at the hypocrisy.
Yeah, at the hypocrisy of
for appearing to be something that they weren't.
Exactly, and I feel like he would be so angry with, IFB, with churches in general, because
I agree.
Honestly, the way that you make the environment so, in a way, that everyone's so fearful of appearing any certain way, so then they end up hiding everything. Yeah. Like, it's a very secretive type
the
of thing.
IFB does not produce good Christian kids. The IFB produces kids that are scared and that know how to hide things. They produce great liars. Like, I can't lie as well as I used to anymore, I'll be honest. Like, the other day I tried to, like, it was, I mean, not like a big deal, but I was trying to tell Theo that I, like, cleaned something and I didn't so I could go do it later and he wouldn't see or something like that. I think it was dishes. He's like, did you do this? So I'm just like, yeah, I totally did the dishes. And he knew I was lying. And I am not a good liar anymore.
No, I'm not either. I don't think I've ever been. I
used to be great, though. I used to be a great liar. Oh,
no, I don't think I've never been a good liar. But I just feel like no matter what, kids are going to do things that they don't want their parents to know about, or like that their parents say not to do. Right. It's just part of being a teenager, like we go through a rebellious phase, and that's just natural. Like, it's part of finding our independence and finding ourselves as people. Like, we weren't given that. We weren't given the opportunity to explore our sexuality, to explore our likes and dislikes. We weren't given that. We were given fear and just.
And so I'm bi, and I know that I'm bi. I've never been with a girl. I probably won't be, because I'm in a monogamous relationship and I like it that way. But I knew that I was bi when I was 14, and I never told anybody in the church, never told anybody in the school. I didn't tell anybody until I told Theo, like, I think it was 21 when I told him. And so like that, there was no space to do that. There was nothing, like, if I wanted to stay, like, have a relationship with my family, which now that I'm saying this, maybe they're gonna find out. That's cool. I've never come out to my family before. So if I wanted to have a relationship with my family, or if I wanted to have a relationship with anybody in the church, like any of my old friends, like, that was not option. Like, I would have been expelled.
Yeah.
If I was bi in high school, I would have been expelled. That's simple.
I just think it's like, how does it affect me who you're attracted to?
It doesn't.
Exactly. So why should I care?
It doesn't. There's no reason to care this much. There's no reason to care this much. And having this level of control over somebody else's life, unfortunately, is what the IFB is all about. It's so much control over everybody's life when there's no reason to be like this. There's no reason to act like this in all reality.
I think that they just get bored in their houses, like not able to do anything that they want to do. So then they're just like trying to control everyone else to not
Mm,
like, you know what I mean? Like, if I can't do it, I don't want you to be able to do it kind of thing is
yeah.
almost the vibe that they give off because they're trying to change our politics and things like that to try to like keep those who are gay from getting married and stuff like that. And
Yep.
it's like, why?
Yep.
That doesn't affect you at all. Like, just leave it be. You
No,
know,
it's
like
disgusting.
there's so many things that it's like it's all about control and it's all about like what the pastor will think, what the church will think, and like how to control other people. And I think religion's always kind of been that way, like
Yeah.
controlling like political groups and
Dude,
things.
I still worry about what my pastor thinks. You know
Hmm.
how stupid that is?
I
And you know
don't.
how
Yeah.
icky that feels? Like, that feels so
Yeah.
gross. Like, realistically, I don't. But that
Hmm.
feeling that's like been brainwashed and ingrained into me for so many years is
Hmm.
still there.
I feel like it's a little bit weird how like close we get to our pastors because it's almost like they're our second father.
Yes. So
But that's
yeah,
weird.
okay.
I feel like
My,
that's a weird,
ugh,
like it's kind of crosses a boundary, to be
it
honest.
absolutely does. And they say all the time that the church and the school is not supposed to take the place of the home, but it does.
Hmm.
So my dad um, has not been treated great by Faith Baptist. My dad does not have a white collar job. He has been, no, my dad is the hardest worker I know. Um,
Hmm.
but because he never made a lot of money, even though he was working
He
his butt
wasn't the
off.
church's favorite.
No, and
I
I
wonder why.
remember being in a counseling session with Pastor Boyle, and he told me that my father was an inadequate provider for our family.
For who? For you guys or for him?
No, for us. I mean, I'm sure it was partly about him too, but he also had a lot of rich other people in that church, so it didn't really matter. But no, like,
Yeah.
and I was told for a long time that my father was not a good provider for our family, and I believed it for a really long time.
Hmm.
My dad is the hardest worker I know, and
Hmm.
he has worked his butt off every day to provide for us and to do his best for us. My dad has done his best
Yeah.
for us. And I hate that they made me think something different about him.
Yeah.
And I hate that I did not treat him well for a long time because of it. Like, I mean, my dad and I had our own issues, but I remember just being so disapproving of him and his job and being so ashamed of him and his job because of what they told me about him and his job.
Yeah.
And looking back on that now, I mean, that's a horrible thing to say to somebody about their father.
Yeah.
And and it came from my pastor. My pastor said that. It's disgusting.
It's so sad. It's just another way of crossing, like another example of how they cross boundaries
Yeah.
within the families. And like that happened to me all the time. Like, I remember my parents like allowing certain things, but then the church would find out and I would get in huge trouble just because
Yep.
my dad would get embarrassed because the church found out. And because of that, then we would get like disciplined for it. But there was a lot of things that like my parents were very chill and like for
Yeah.
the most part they trusted us, but then the church would like freak out for anything.
Yeah.
And I got in trouble quite a bit because of it. And one time we actually invited people over for like swimming. We
Mhm.
invited these girls over and one of the girls ended up inviting over their cousin. And
What, boy or
we
girl?
like it was a boy.
Ooh, that's a big
So
no-no.
yeah, the girl she invited over this her boy cousin.
Okay.
And we ended up going swimming. It was like this public pool by my house that we went to. And you have to wear like coverings, obviously. Like
Yeah.
we as IFB people, we have to wear a shirt and shorts over.
Well, and when you say shirt, not a tank top. No, we had to wear a full t-shirt. We could not show our arms.
Hmm. And preferably loose because we can't wear anything tight.
And not white. Can't be white because it'll get wet and it'll get see-through.
Then it would get see-through. Yeah.
Yep.
So a loose shirt and probably like long basketball shorts.
Or culottes.
We would, wear that over our swimsuit. So we wouldn't be like, showing our bodies to the opposite sex or whatever, or just in general. And my sister and I kept ours on, but the girl that was like related to the boy took hers off, and then her friend took it off too. So they were like in their bathing suits, which I don't care, but
right.
Just for, the story, we ended up getting preached at, like literally like the next Sunday or Wednesday or whatever service, the next church service. And it was humiliating. Like, I remember being like, when you're like so embarrassed, you're like, you feel like hot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like, the Pastor McRoy was literally preaching directly at us. Like, girls and boys can't swim together, and like swimming like together is like a sin, and all these things.
I'm getting some secondhand embarrassment for you right now.
And I was just like, how did he find out? Like, how does he know that we even did that? And then he was talking about how like, if you're in your bathing suit, then you're like a slut essentially, like, and stuff like that. And I took it as like them preaching against my sister and I, because the other girls were more of like favored. They were more favored by the pastor and stuff.
Okay.
So Pastor McRoy didn't like our family, and part of it was racially based, I believe. So we're half Hispanic, so we just weren't favored. My dad also wasn't like, he was a layman, so they're lame as laymen. So we were just not a favored family. And honestly, some of it, I kind of wonder if like the ones that were his quote unquote favorite maybe made more income.
Well, it depends on what they did. Like, you're talking about like being employed within the church and the school.
I don't know. Like, I think that maybe,
or that he favored them because they made more.
Yeah, because they made more money.
Okay. I mean,
I would assume you would want to be friendliest to the people that are bringing in your most income.
Well, and that's like, and let's be completely fair here. That's not something that's specific to the IFB. That's something you see everywhere. Like, if you want money from somebody in any capacity, you are going to be extra nice to them. Let's just be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but within the church, it's like, we are paying the pastors. We're making.
Oh yeah, pastors 99% of the time, this is their job. Like, and it is then our job as the congregation to support them. Tithing was not optional. You tithe 10% of your gross income. That's what we were told to tithe. When I got my first job and I started tithing, I got really mad about it and I stopped. I told my parents that I still did, but I didn't. Because I'm just like, I don't want to be here anyway. I don't agree with this anyway. Because I was 16 at that point, so I was very done. I don't want to be here anyway. I don't agree with this. Like, why would I support this with my money? I'm not going to. I'm going to go get a coffee because that will make me happy. And that's what I did with my tithe money. I mean, that's about how much it was. It was about the cost of like a couple of cups of coffee. But still, like, it wasn't optional. Tithes were not optional. Offerings were. That was the distinction. Tithes were not optional. If you're a member of the church, you had to tithe 10% of your gross income. Offerings were anything extra you wanted to give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we would be told that, like, the more you give, the more God will give you.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really sad. It's such a manipulation, and it's so sad because people that are poor, like, my family struggled a lot financially. Like, we were not,
ours did too. We were not rich.
Yeah. So to tell my family to, like, give and give and give and give until you can't give anymore, essentially. It's like, it's just so sad. Like, they're gonna just take advantage of good
It's financial
people.
abuse. It is financial
Yeah.
abuse. And I mean, if you think of it in the context of like a domestic abuse situation, if you are in a relationship with somebody and they are telling you to give you all of their money or give them all of your money until you literally have nothing left, that's financial abuse. It's the same way, it works the same way with churches.
Yeah, I feel the same way about your relationship with like God too.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's certain things, especially in the Bible, where I'm just like, he's asking you to offer up his child as a sacrifice. Like I
Oh,
would never, never, ever,
no.
ever. I don't care who's going to hell. I would never give up my children for anyone,
Nope.
ever. And that goes for like how Jesus gave up his son, which honestly, that makes me a little bit annoyed because he's not the mom and the mother makes the children. Like
Yeah.
we are literally creators of life and we
Yeah.
create these beautiful souls and children. And then for the father to just be like, yeah, I'm going to give him up
I'm going to make a
to
decision
save the
regardless of what you
world.
want.
I highly doubt a mother would ever do that. Ever.
I don't think so. I
So,
mean, you can read in the Bible about, Mary, Jesus's mother, and her reaction. She was devastated, and it was clearly not something that she had a say in. Obviously,
if
like
she
in
had
the
a say,
lore of
she
the
would have
scripture,
given.
that's not like obviously in the lore of the scripture, Mary is not Jesus's actual real like parent in terms of creator. Like that is his heavenly father, that is God. That's not something that Mary and Joseph really had a hand in. So I mean there is that like piece of it to consider, but I mean for all intents and purposes that was his mother. She gave birth to him, she raised him, like all of those things, like she had every right to those emotions. And
Mhm.
I don't know, like I also struggle with like Jesus dying for the sins of the world is one thing, but to hurt so many people through that process like that, I struggle with that. Like, why would you put Mary and Joseph through that?
Yeah. I think
That's
that,
cruel. That's cruel.
yeah. And it's also like, it's basically, I don't know. I think that if Mary did have a choice, she would have given herself
Oh, yeah.
because a parent would give themselves for like a parent that truly loves their children
Mm-hmm.
would give themselves for them.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a little bit weird. It's like, oh yeah, as this man, which I mean, like, his heavenly father or whatever, father is more of a manly term. So
Right.
as this man, he's giving up his only son
Yeah.
for everybody. But to me,
Yeah.
that's not the ultimate sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice is giving yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
I don't know.
I would agree
But
with that.
there's certain things that I don't truly believe that it's like the end all be all with like the amount of love they assume that God has for you. Because for me, the love of a parent is something that is beyond, like, there's nothing to describe the love of a parent. Like, it's especially the love of a mother. I can't speak for a father. Like, I don't know
Sure.
what they go through. But for a mother, for me, it's like, it's the greatest love I've ever had. So for someone to be like, you need to offer up your kid, nope. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I
So I
mean,
don't know.
I don't have children yet. I have my puppies and my kitties, but I don't have
Hmm.
any children yet. Um, and even as somebody who's not a mother yet, I
Hmm.
could not imagine. I
Yeah.
I would
There's a
never.
there's a lot of things that I don't fully understand, and I've read the Bible like multiple times.
Yeah.
I've memorized a lot of the Bible, and
Right.
I've heard plenty of sermons through, since I was a very young child up until I was 21.
Yeah.
Um, Going to church like full time, like morning, like the Sunday school morning service, like choir practice,
Yep.
teen service, night service, Wednesday service,
yep.
every chapel in school. Like,
oh, so much preaching, so much church. It's so much.
I've heard like it all. I've heard it all.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't hear it anymore. I couldn't listen to it anymore. And there's just so much that has solidified like my beliefs post parenthood.
Yeah. No, that makes just a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, looking more at this handbook, another thing I want to call out is that the school is not accredited.
Oh, yeah. No schools are.
I don't think any of them are. I think that there are a couple of schools.
They can't be, because then they have to abide by, like, the rules.
Well, and it's interesting. They flaunt being not accredited. They are proud of the fact that they're not accredited, because it means that the government has had no say in their curriculum. It means the government has had no hand in the existence of their school. So regardless of how,
we're not taught evolution at all.
Oh no,
we're barely taught biology about our bodies. We're not taught sex ed.
No sex ed. Sure. We had zero sex ed.
No protection talks.
Nope. I remember, okay, so the extent of what I was taught about evolution was how to defend against it. And even that, like, you would think if you were wanting to defend against something, you would get into it and learn all the details and be ready for anything.
We learned that in college.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't learn that in high school. For instance, most conversations I have had with other people who grew up religious or didn't grow up religious and are now agnostic or atheist, a lot of them know more about the Bible than I do, like full honesty, because they have studied it, because they have been questioned so much. So you would think if we were being taught to defend against evolution, we would actually be taught about evolution. Nope. I remember one time on a science quiz. Go ahead.
In college, we were taught it was a class of creationism. And so it was mostly just in that light of like defending. It wasn't really like, here's evolution and here's why we don't believe like that this is real. It was more like specific points of like, this is like what, like one of the main points of why
somebody will say this to you, so you parrot this back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one time on a science quiz, there was a question about like, it might have been like a missing link or some kind of specific fossil or something. And the question was, where is this found? And it was a multiple choice answer. And without thinking, I circled the answer and not, it doesn't exist. Because it doesn't exist was one of the multiple choice options. And my science teacher, as she was grading those quizzes after we took them, she, in front of the whole class, looks at me and said, Josie, answer this question, blah, 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 blah. And I said, the answer. And she's like, no, Josie, it doesn't exist. In front of the whole class, super embarrassing. And I'm just like, oh, right, it doesn't exist. Whoops. And in my senior year, we had to write papers defending creation, essentially. Like, it was a creation versus evolution, and we were required to take the stance that creation was correct and evolution was not. And I wrote it the opposite way. And I got pulled into the principal's office. The principal was, I think, Eric Lamphere at that time. And I really liked Eric Lamphere. He was a great principal. He's a very good person. And I was pulled into his office and he's like, what is this about? And I was like, well, I had to write this paper and maybe I just feel differently. He's like, Josie, you know that that's not right. You're just being rebellious, because that's what everybody said. So I had to rewrite the paper, and I only got I got it cut down to where I could have gotten 100% if I did it right the first time, but I was only able to get up to a 70%. So I got a 70% on the paper, but
yeah. And I also think that one of the differences I had with Pastor McElroy and Pastor Donley, Pastor Donley was like insanely against dating.
Yeah.
Like really, really, really insane. Like, did not want anyone flirting with anybody. Yeah. And which that turned out great for him and his family. But basically, I remember with like Pastor McElroy, we were allowed to date when we were 16. And that we just had to have, like, we had to have purity rings, and then we had to have chaperones.
So I got my purity ring on my 16th birthday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I remember one time with our quote unquote prom, we called it banquets.
Yeah, we had banquets. We didn't
with
have
our banquets,
dances or proms.
We couldn't even call it prom for some reason. Mm-hmm. But we would have banquets with no dancing or anything. It was literally just like eating food.
Well, ours was like sports themed. Like we always had it centered around, it was a sports banquet. So we would always have it centered around like celebrating the sports season. Like I got the Hustle Award. I can't even tell you how many times in a row.
That's true. We would have award. It was like an award night.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't dance or anything. We would just
no dancing, no music.
And then
we
get
would just
awards.
Eat and listen to preaching.
Mm-hmm. And then I would then eventually we were able to have king and queen, and I won.
Oh, really? Hey, look at you. We never did.
I won 1 year with my best friend Brandon.
Oh, shout out Brandon. I love that. But no, we never. I've always been so sad that I never got to have a prom. Like, I will say, I mean, I appreciate that we at least got to do banquets because it was really fun to dress up.
Yeah, it was.
Now, we still had to do dress checks. Like, we had to bring our formals.
We have to show.
I have so many pictures.
Show how embarrassing we are.
I have so many pictures.
Okay, we would get, let's say, sleeveless, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because that was like.
Well, sleeveless or spaghetti strap or something, and then we would have to get shawls. That was.
And we also had to put fabric right here.
Like under it. Yep.
Underneath. Yeah.
Oh my God, I have so many pictures. I cannot wait to show you these pictures.
Come out. Did that happen to you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It would sometimes like wrinkle weird and you'd have to like fix it again.
Well, it was very large chested. So I had this like piece of fabric that I had that would like hook onto my bra straps and I wore it under just about everything. And then it would like divot in between my boobs.
Yes,
and I would get called out on it so many times. Like I would have like teachers come and look at me and be like, you need to fix your undershirt. I'm just like, okay. So I'm like playing with my boobs in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. Like that's not going to draw attention to them. Whatever.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, dress checks were great. We had to bring our formals to school and have like the coach or a teacher like approve them.
Mm-hmm. Could you find those little shawls like at the store? Did you have to get them made by someone?
I was always able to find mine, but it took a lot of hunting. I have so many pictures to show you. My senior year, my mom made my dress for me. And that was so sweet.
My senior year, I had someone, it was actually this close, like, she was kind of like a second mom almost.
Okay.
But she made me a dress.
I love that.
Like, we, like, designed together and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. So I was very into like neon green. I loved that color. I still love the neon colors.
Were you really? Green too.
Yes. Yeah, okay, so green's still my favorite color. I was I had these neon green like canvas Vans shoes. I loved those things. It's very sad when they wore out. So my mom made me a neon green dress with some black lace. That's and
cool. Were you allowed to wear that? Neon green?
I was, yeah. Cool. I didn't think that I was going to be able to, but it was my favorite color and I pushed really hard. So my volleyball coach, I love my volleyball coach. She was a rebel child growing up and she stayed IFB. So she was always a little bit more like easy on some of those rules or let some things slide. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my mom made that for me and I wore it to our sports bank, my neon green Vans shoes. Oh, and I have a picture of it and I loved it so much. It was so great.
Yeah, one that was like, it was like a silk dress and it was like green, like mostly green because I had like a little green belt essentially, like ruching.
Yeah.
And then like a pretty green and blue type of vibe.
Yeah.
But I'll have to post it. And there would be like themes for the different banquets.
Oh, really?
And stuff, but
we never had themes. We were never that fancy.
Yeah, I think we had an Asian themed one.
Okay.
But you know.
Oh my gosh.
But,
so yeah, okay. So let's talk about dress codes. I'm just gonna say, like we've talked a lot about dress. Oh, go ahead.
I had the story about my purity ring. So I went
on a banquet.
So we were allowed. were you allowed to go like with someone to the banquet?
No, okay, so we would have two banquets. We would have the President's Day one, the big one in Riverview, where we had like the big tournament, and then we'd have a banquet at the end. And then we
Yeah.
had our
Which we have photos of that too.
yes.
I bet we have one
some.
together.
Probably not, because I like our age difference. I don't. Maybe we did. I'll have to find some from my 7th grade year.
Okay.
And find some from your senior year. See if I'm in the background of any of them.
I know I have.
We didn't know each other
like
super well in high school.
No, I feel like we had one with.
I also didn't start. Though. This was only for varsity. I didn't start playing varsity until 8th grade. So that.
Okay, so maybe not.
So I probably didn't go. Okay. Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh, okay, yeah. So at the Riverview one. I remember my senior year, this guy I had a crush on held my hand when the lights went down because we all watched a play. And he held my hand when the light went down. We didn't actually go together, but he held my hand, and I was, over the moon with excitement. And I mean, it was a big no-no. But at the but no, we were not allowed to go with anybody officially.
So we were after we were 16, and so that's when like the purity rings came into play. I had my purity ring on, and I ended up losing it that night, but not in the sense of like losing my virginity.
The ring or?
No, not my purity. I didn't lose my purity. I lost the ring. So the guy that I was with at the time, I gave him, I seriously don't remember why, but I gave him the ring to put like in his little pocket, his suit pocket.
Okay.
Because we were doing something. We were at like a family fun center.
Oh,
where like you do mini golfing and
so
like
you don't want it to like get
riding the little cars. I thought I would like lose it for some reason. So we ended up going on this weird ride that like flipped or something. And I think it fell. It fell out of his pocket. And then I never had my purity ring again. But anytime I say that I lost my ring, people think that I lost my purity. But yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
Yeah.
I will
think
just
it was
say
just like a little bit big on me, so it would like fall off a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I got mine on my 16th birthday, and I was really glad that I got one in a weird reason, because I had been molested for several years, and we'll talk about all the details of that stuff later. But most of my friends got them when they were like 13, and I didn't get one until 16. And because all of my friends got one and I didn't, I thought that it was because I was unpure, because I was told that I was unpure.
Aww,
even though, yeah, so many times. I was super dirty and nobody would want me and all that good stuff. Like,
how old were you when you were told that?
Oh, I mean, like, I was probably like 12, 13, like right after it happened. Yeah.
That's so sad. And that's
and
like,
for the rest of my time
puberty.
there, it was this whole, it was just a common theme, unfortunately. And I wasn't ever raped. So like that, my virginity was not taken, or however you want to say that. Like, I was still intact, I guess you could say.
Well, we don't know. Technically, you can't know that, but
in that sense, like, I was still pure, but I was still, even though that line hadn't been crossed, I was still told that I was unpure, and told that, my future husband would have to deal with that, and that would be really hard.
That you were like, you were used goods?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I hate that.
Yeah, so we love that. So I thought that was why I didn't get a purity ring until I was 16, was because my parents agreed with that I was dirty and that I was impure. I don't think that was actually the case. I've never really talked to my parents about that. I might have to, because now I'm curious.
Rings are expensive, so maybe it was just they couldn't.
Well, they splurged. Like, I think that was probably what it was. Like, this was something that they had saved up for me. And so I was actually really thankful when I got mine that they actually still believed that I was pure.
I feel like that's also really sad. Like, could you imagine like a family that wouldn't be able to afford a ring? So then you feel like you're not pure, or like you wouldn't be allowed to have like the purity. I don't know.
Well, and I also didn't feel like I could talk to them about it because after the abuse happened and everything came out, like I just felt so distant. I had always felt like distant from them, but that was just increased so much. Like we didn't talk unless we had to. Like we didn't really talk to each other unless we had to after that.
Your parents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there was never a really close relationship there after that. I love my parents. And I know that they did the best that they could. I believe that even with all of the things that I disagree with that they did, I believe that they did the best they could, and I respect that, and I love them for that.
I think that our parents just get like very manipulated by the system and everything, and it's just
they do.
Yeah. It's really sad.
So yeah, that's my parody ring story. So really quickly before we end today, I just want to call out dress code for women versus men. I'm looking at this document. The dress code for ladies,
I think it's 3 pages.
3 pages long. The dress code for men, 1 page.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else see a problem with that? What the heck?
Well, we have just so many more things to cover, I guess.
Yeah. We'll probably end up doing more of these kinds of things, just talking about the ways that we grew up. And I think that just as we continue to talk about our experiences, a lot of those will just come up naturally.
I think we'll have to do like different parts for sure.
Yeah. Because there's a lot wrong with all of that.
Yeah.
But I think that about covers everything that we wanted to talk about for today. Again, if you have experienced religious trauma or spiritual abuse and you would like to share your story, or you would just like to talk to somebody about it, please reach out to us, cultconfessionskjv@gmail.com. We are more than happy to sit and talk with you and help you in any way that we can. But we will
subscribe.
Yes, subscribe and do all those things.
and like, and we have like Facebook and Instagram and everything.
Yes.
If you could like those, that would really help us out.
Yes, they are linked in our Facebook bio, all of our socials. And I'm really excited for next week because we have our first guest. We have our first guest coming on to talk about his experience in the IFB. So we're really excited for that. We have a couple more lined up. So you'll be hearing from more than just us in the near future.
And we'll also be hearing Josie's story very soon as well.
Yes. Yeah, the more that I'm talking about some of this, the more that I'm like, you know what, it's really time to get it all out in the open and talk about all the gory details. So we're going to do that pretty soon. But that's it for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Share your story.
If you have been affected by religious trauma or abuse, we want to hear your story.
Even if you're not ready to share publicly, we would be happy to listen and support you on your journey, free of judgment or pressure.
Please email us at cultconfessionskjv@gmail.com to get started.
We believe you.